What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Game Day Playbook live show. We got 8 games on tap here on a Wednesday. We had some day baseball for people who played the early slate. We have a 640 slate as well. So if you guys are tuning into that, you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. But we are focusing on the main slate here. 8 games on tap. 1 game with weather. San Diego, St. Louis is the one we're watching as we approach roster lock. That one starts at 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. If it rains over the stadium, there's a chance of a delay or postponement. Of course, as we saw last night, weather was an issue, and in one instance, in the Arizona or the is the Arizona Chicago, is that the matchup, or Texas rather?
Texas
matchup there. Unexpected postponement. If you were to look around the Twitter sphere there, but we turn our attention here. 8 games, some good pitching matchups, and some pretty obvious stack spots as well.
Yes, I guess weather's not out of the woods here. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting slate because after the top tier pitching, it really falls off a table, and there's some darts to potentially take. But overall, just interesting 8-game slate with better hitting than there is pitching.
There is definitely better hitting than there is pitching, and that's going to be sort of I guess the strategy for tonight's slate is, where do you go? We know at least where one player that we go, and that is Chris Sale. He is your highest rostered starting pitcher here today by a good amount, and for good reason. Wrote him up in the playbook. He was the cover of our pre-show. Highest strikeout ceiling of anybody on this slate, therefore the highest scoring ceiling of anybody on this slate. And when you look at the overall pitching, you'll know why everybody is going here, because there's really not much else to have too much confidence in as you work your way down the board. It's just whether on a DraftKings, $11,000, getting to build around him here today.
Yeah, I mean, he's clear cut, and I think you don't worry about it. I think you just get Chris Sale into your lineup and not worry about it. You worry about everything else around it.
Yeah. I think there's certainly some value. Justin's popping in here saying, let's go. No weather surprises. I mean, listen, our fantasy weatherman there does a good job, 99.9%. Even he tweeted out last night, Kevin Droth, that this was the worst forecasting he's had maybe ever. He didn't even think it was going to rain in places that we had like 6-hour delays in. So, you know what? It happens. Unfortunately for some, it costs some money there. Your second highest roster pitcher tonight is Freddie Peralta. He's got this matchup against the Giants. Again, a good spot. He has the second best win odds on this slate as well. We know his decent strikeout number, decent strikeout upside at times. Lately hasn't necessarily shown it. Musgrove is 88, Burns 87, Erod 85, Harrison 82, and Bassett 8K is kind of like your next tier of pitchers. Are you in on Peralta, or is there another starter you're looking to go to?
Definitely in on Peralta. And I would say, I know it hasn't been good lately, like you said, but he typically does have good strikeout upside. I mean, he has a 28% strikeout rate of the year. Just because he's hit a little blip in the radar, the last few games, doesn't mean, suddenly he can't strike people out. I mean, St. Louis, Cleveland, those are 2 very tough strikeout spots for opposing pitchers. So I'll give him a reprieve in both those instances, and he's looked good in both those spots. So I'm definitely interested in Peralta. If you can make it work with, starting your lineup Sale Peralta, you have 36.50 left. That's a punt catcher, punt elsewhere.
That's a Will Wagner, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a reason why you would do something like that, especially after you get past Peralta, because you mentioned, I mean, Corbin Burns has been a shell of himself and now has to travel to the Dodgers, who obviously present a lot of issues to everyone. Erod has looked fine, has had troubles with righties. The Mets are going to throw a lot of righties at him. You can go there. We've seen Erod look pretty good, but Miami and Colorado have been 2 of his opponents. The Mets are neither of those teams. Kyle Harrison, it's a good spot for strikeout upside. It also could be death by 1,000 paper cuts, because Milwaukee does have, despite like the lack of power they've had against lefties, they do have like a lot of good hitters in their lineup that can just single you to death. And we've seen Kyle Harrison not exactly go deep into games at times. Just, two of his last 10 starts have spanned at least 6 innings. So he's fine. And then Chris Bassett, although the success against the Red Sox this year has been there, do you want to tempt fate for a third straight time when Boston's throwing every lefty they have at him today? So it's like, really, after the top two names, there are just question marks basically across the board. I didn't even mention Musgrove, but what is the likelihood of him going 7 scoreless with 9 strikeouts, 75 pitches again against a team that doesn't really strike out a lot?
Yeah.
It is a position full of question marks. So if you do build around a Sale Peralta and feel comfortable with it, do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question that you and I had a kind of a back and forth debate on last night, we'll just jump to him now, was Jack Leiter. I said on that show, if the rostership on him was going to be high, I'd be more inclined to fade. If the rostership was going to be low, I'd consider putting him in. We have him checking in at 12, 13% right now on DraftKings. That's like low. Is low-ish, mid-tier-ish. Anything that we've discussed from last night sway you more one way or the other, or are you still locking them in against the White Sox?
I am still locking him in. There's obvious risk. There is obvious reward. He has been really good lately at AAA in a very tough environment, pitching in the PCL. We talk about that all the time. That is the toughest minor league system to pitch in, minor league division to pitch in. So he has that working for him. He has massive strikeout stuff. He recorded 11 outs in his final or one of his second to last AAA game. He had 11 strikeouts. Every out was recorded by strikeout. You mentioned the walks. That was an issue the first 2 of 3 starts in the major leagues. It was an issue. It's been an issue basically at every stop in the minor leagues. But we kind of just saw this, and I'm not going to compare the spot, but we talked about a struggling minor leaguer going up against the White Sox at $4,000. And I guess that's probably the biggest disconnect that you probably had. Because if Jack Leiter was 4K, you would have said, you would have just plugged and played and moved on. It's not even like a consideration. We wouldn't even be talking about pitchers still, because it would have just been Sale, Leiter,
Sale, 4K Leiter.
Yeah. It's 7,100, so I get it. It's just a very appealing matchup because I don't know, and this is no disrespect to the players of the White Sox, because obviously they're good enough to at least be on a major league team. How many of them are on a major league team next year and like playing every day, right? Like how many of them currently are in the majors like in a couple years? Like Jack Leiter has electric stuff that has been not that electric in 3 major league starts, but I'm willing to bet on the talent versus the talent of the opposition here.
Right.
I don't believe the 12% at all. Truth be told, I believe
I'm kind of with you too. I bet when we get an update closer to roster lock that might double, right? Like
so I am full bore on Leiter. There is the interesting comment from IC3U, one of our longtime subscribers here at Fantasy Alarm. We appreciate you, Justin. It is an interesting thing because you have specifically talked about this all year long with Kyle Freeland. You have ad nauseum been like, why is he better at home? Over and over again. He is.
Just the splits.
He's just significant. Like, it's not even comparable.
He has double the ERA on the road this year. It should be reversed.
He has 0.5 better whip, 140 better batting average, 386, 4. Like, it's crazy. His FIP is 3.7, his xFIP's 4.49. Still way better than the road numbers. So it's not even drastically off. At home this year, 0.7 homers per 9. Like in Coors Field, it's 2.2 on the road. So would that be your pivot off? if you had a pivot off ladder, is he the?
I did talk about him and Meyer. I think you maybe could go to either of those plays here tonight. That said, wrote up both teams as like a stack in the top hitter section and listed out guys I like. If you're spending $11K on Chris Sale, there's some cheap plays that you can take advantage of, in that game. There's some cheap plays on Toronto we'll talk about as well, that you can kind of get in your lineup there. So Julian saying he's in the 55 single on DraftKings and Freeland might be playable. I agree. I mean, he's $5,500. You're going to be able to pair him with Sale and get some top bats in that lineup. If you get this start, if you get 13 fantasy points out of Kyle Freeland, like, you win. Like, that's enough. Well, never mind, 26, 14, 15 here at home against the Mets, 18 at home against the Giants. Yeah, we do 19 against the Royals at home. How many times have we been like, oh, we're excited. We got an offense in Coors. They got Kyle Freeland. He's terrible. And then he goes out there, he's shutting them down. So I'm with you. I think Freeland is certainly serviceable here tonight.
I mean, yes, offense is obviously get a boost going into Coors. Miami is still 28th in OPS against lefties.
Yeah.
They're still 29th in WRC plus.
If you can't make contact, it doesn't really matter, right?
They're still 29th in WOBA. Like, they're bottom 2 or 3 in basically every category. So, while I think Jack Leiter ultimately is the better play, I completely understand $1,600 savings because ultimately, Kyle Freeland is a good ground ball pitcher in a ballpark that you need to get ground balls in, because the outfield is so big and you just don't want anything lifted in the air, right? He had 13 ground ball outs against the Yankees. Still give up the 2 home runs, obviously, because that's what happens when you face the Yankees. But if you are getting ground balls in Coors, you are fine. And and again, the Marlins are not very good. So I think Kyle Freeland is very viable at 55.
Agreed. Let's go to catcher. We mentioned, obviously, there's some value plays. We like Alejandro Kirk at $3,300. Christian Vasquez is not going to go him against Sale, but someone we have played this season. Corey Lee is $2,500. So could be some value plays. Where are some of your targets for us today?
Yeah, all those guys are fine. Minus Vasquez, I probably wouldn't go there, especially at 3K when you could play Drew Romo, who is a switch hitter. The Meyer splits are weird because he's been a good ground ball pitcher, also allowing a lot of home runs, and it's kind of interesting. So I'm good going to Romo punt. No, we did not talk about Festa. There has been a hard cap kind of on David Festa. I appreciate the strikeout rate on David Festa, but the innings limit that they have kind of deployed where they're kind of babying him. They won't let him go past 5 innings. Especially when he's getting into this trouble and not getting out of the fence.
And no win equity going against Atlanta with Chris Sale on the other side of that matchup. So it's just
I don't love the spot for Festa, especially if we're not getting more than 5 innings. I get it, 1,600. There is strikeout upside because he does have a good strikeout rate, but I don't know. An offense heating up for me. I'd probably either just bite the bullet on the lighter chalk or play Freeland.
Sure.
But I do like Drew Romo, $3,000. He showed a lot of power at the minor league level. Obviously has not translated to the major league level yet. But had a 500 slug and 14 home runs in 85 games at AAA.
Sure.
So I think that, if I'm punting the position, I'm probably just going Romo.
Okay.
Ultimately.
Del Castillo's 45 if you want to spend up, or Gary Sanchez 36 if you wanted to chase after Harrison.
Yep.
Could go in either direction there. Dom with a strikeout prop on the 640 slate. We got Beto versus the Reds. Over 4 strikeouts.
I mean, the Reds do strike out.
I mean, Ellie could strike out 3 times.
Oh, Beto's been pretty good lately, so yeah, I don't have any issue with that.
I agree. First base, Berger is the cover of the show today. $5,600 against Freeland there. Matt Olson against Festa, $5,400. Tolia versus Meyer, 52. Pete Alonso and JD Mark both get the lefty and Erod. Some of the top options, I think, spending up wise.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Fortes at catcher, but he's fine. Or you might have mentioned him, but we talked about on the show.
He's fine. He's not a good hitter, but it's whatever. It's course.
I mean, Berger's obviously he's been better against righties this year, but he had the big hit last night to give them the lead and ultimately the win. Hasn't obviously been great in the 2 games, but he's been notoriously powerful against lefties. So yeah. I do like Berger 56. Vladdy's fine. Obviously he's on one of those heaters again. We've talked about the Bayo splits a lot. Bayo's obviously been worse against lefties, but like if you're playing a Blue Jay stack, are you not like you're including Vladimir Guerrero?
Yeah, you have to. Well, that's one of the things we're going to talk about the value. Like it's not hard to get Vladimir Guerrero when you look at Loperfido, Wagner, Barger, Varsho, Kirk. Right. Their entire lineup outside of like him and Springer are 3K.
Our value, there are just a value. It's just a value-filled lineup. Yeah. Olsen is, I think, interesting. Like the Festa home run rate / strikeout, like just power on power here.
And he's heating up, right?
And he is heating up. Yep. So definitely interested in Olsen. I'm always interested in Tolia, 5,200. There's a lot of power in his bat and a lot of upside against a guy allowing over 2 home runs per 9 innings to both splits. Righties and lefties are both hitting over 2 home runs per 9 against Max Mayer. So I am interested in a lot of the 5K tier. I'm good with Shohei. I told you on, I don't know if it was yesterday's show or the pre-show, I'm just not paying a premium for Freddie Freeman in current form. I can't do it, especially with the finger. As long as that finger is still going to be an issue, I'm out.
Casas is cleaning up again, $4,900. JD Mark's 44 against Erod. Josh Bell's 4K. Feel like him hitting cleanup today against Severino. Anything else in the 4K range for you?
I just give a hat tip to Alonso at 5K too. Just Erod's been bad against righties right off the bat. I think JD's the better play, but you could, if you're stacking Mets, you could technically play both of them.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely interested in both those Mets first basemen. Josh Bell's fine. Severino's been good. I thought there would be a little regression after that complete game. There wasn't. He was good. Mets bullpen is, fairly healthy now and pretty good. The only other shout I'd give probably in this tier would be Horwitz hitting 4th against Bayo. He's just been good against righties. He's not good against lefties, but he has good numbers. He's a guy who gets on base. So 4,200 in the middle of their lineup, multi-position eligibility.
Sure.
I like Spencer Horwitz.
Value first baseman for you?
That doesn't necessarily exist. I guess like the ultimate question is what we're going to do with the White Sox or against the White Sox, because the Rangers look great, right? I mean, Chad Kuhl, Touki Toussaint, Rangers look great. But then you look at the Rangers and they don't look great. The Rangers implied total looks great.
Yeah.
Their matchup looks great. Their players don't. That's the problem. I feel like their 5.3 implied run total against Kuhl and Toussaint here are indicative of them making the World Series and winning it last year.
Nathaniel's currently the highest projected roster first baseman.
And that's my problem. And I was going to ask like what your thoughts are, because like, again, matchup, great. Implied total, great. Everything White Sox bullpen matchup, like after, I mean, even Kuhl stinks and Toussaint stinks. And then everyone after it stinks. But there's only one player on this team with like a 750 OPS or better against right-handed pitching all year long. And you can even shrink that sample for the last month. One player still, like even with Adolis being good, it's not against righties. So I don't know, man. I'm like incredibly indifferent on the Rangers because they just haven't been great. So I was just really getting here to ask you, Nathaniel Lowe, plus I guess everyone other than Seager, because like I'm definitely interested in Seager. Everything else I think is like I'd one off Seager and kind of just hope
Yeah,
that they just
I'm with you
kind of
there.
crap the bed.
I'm not in love with Texas, but the matching for them certainly they're talented. They're just slumping, right?
Correct.
It's not a talent problem. They're not the White Sox lineup where you're like half these guys aren't major leaguers. The Rangers are full of all stars.
They won the
Just
World
not
Series.
yeah,
They are the defending champions
just
of Major League Baseball.
not playing like it. So and then your guy Lucan Baker is hitting cleanup and he's 2K. So
Righties have been better. Righties have been better against Musgrove this year. Too.
Yep. Second base. Semion's your top price guy, and as Keith said here, Semion's 25% roster. Hamilton lefty, like you mentioned, they're throwing all the lefties to get bats at $4,600 for him. He sold his 33rd bag the other day. Iglesias versus lefty, 41. Norby versus Freeland, 39. Dual positional eligibility. You got Gavin Lux going to hit probably in the middle of that lineup-ish in that range there against a struggling Corbin Burns. Whit Merrifield's leading off. He had a big day. Walker Buehler struggled. Jackson Holliday's there at 34. A lot of options in the value tier.
Yeah, I mean it's a very good position. I think the interesting part about Hamilton is he definitely connects well now that he's hitting second, right? I mean, Boston's hitting him second tonight, so that's interesting. Horwitz we talked about. You play Iglesias. He's been still good against left-handed pitching. Love Connor Norby. If I'm not playing Freeland, I'm just going to plug and play Norby every day until they're out of course. So Norby has been really good with the Marlins, hitting 300 over 1,000 OPS. You mentioned Lux. I would play Otto Lopez if he's in the lineup against the lefty Freeland. You mentioned Merrifield. He's great. Will Wagner, 2,700. I mean, like, I don't expect Will Wagner to homer again, but anything is possible. That's what Kevin Garnett told us. And, it is a guy that does struggle with lefty power.
Hey, Pete Armstrong today went like 4 for 4 from the 9 hole. So these guys, they can always have some production there, even when they get moved down the lineup. So great split for him. He's been good. I think you have to kind of plug him in if you're double spending today at pitcher.
If you're double spending, yeah. If you're double spending, obviously, like that helps. Will Wagner helps.
Well, Keith, the best hitters of all time are
successful.
1 for 3, so.
Successful. No, not even. I mean, that's like.
I said
the best of all time.
The best of all time are 1 for 3. They get out 2 out of every 3 times. So,
yep.
But think of it that way.
Yeah, 3 of 10. 3 of 10. You're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
like you're going 3 of 10. You're like going to be in the Hall of Fame one day.
Few players do better than 3 of 10. They go 3.5 of every 10 at bats will win you a batting title every year. So think of that. So, all right, third base. You have some guys with dual position eligibility, but you also have guys like Machado who are on fire, McMahon who had homered, Muncy versus Burns at 48, Vientos, Eugenio Suarez is hot. So some good options here at third for guys we haven't already discussed.
Yeah, Machado's been great. Homers in back-to-back games, a lot of extra base hits lately. This is the better split against Payante. The only problem is Payante is like ground ball to the max. So it'll be, not like overloading Padres. It's more of a one-off, just Machado. Chapman is definitely live for a home run. Homered yesterday. This is the better split for right-handed. Peralta's not good against righty, so can definitely play Chapman. Don't be scared off McMahon's 1 for 5 yesterday. If you're stacking Rockies, guy's hitting third again, right?
Yeah.
Even has a little more lineup coverage with Brent Doyle back hitting fourth. So definitely good with going back to the well. McMahon, Muncy homers every day or strikes out 4 times or does both. Vientos still has 1,000+ OPS against left-handed pitching this year. And like every game Vientos has does something big, like multi-hits or home runs or strikes out 4 times. So
super
it's
talented player.
Yeah, super talented baseball player. He'll hit second tonight. I don't think the Mets lineup has come out yet, but he'll hit second eventually. Suarez in tournaments. Yeah, I mean it's a very top heavy loaded position.
Yep, agreed with you there. value, we talked Norby at second, but obviously you can play him at third. Same thing with Iglesias here as well. Got Smith and Young both here at third base. Smith, the lefty. So if you wanted to go lefty against Cool and Tucson, you can. Barger hitting fifth at $2,900. Again, a lefty in that lineup against Bayo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm largely looking at Addison Barger. I will a little salute to Ramon Urias. If you want to attack Walker Buehler, the lefties have obviously done more damage against them. We didn't really talk Ryan O'Hearn at first, but Ryan O'Hearn's a play I would get to. Urias has been amazing. Homered again last night. Really helped people who randomly played Showdown in that late game, especially when they played Ramon Urias. Really, really helped. So I love Urias. I love Baltimore tonight against the Dodgers. I don't think a lot of people are going to play them. Marcus Semien is my cousin. We have Marcus Semien's cousin in our chat. He is definitely in a slump. We say this a lot. Marcus Semien is a
streaky player.
He's a very streaky player. And it's been, it's definitely been up. He is not alone with the rest of his teammates with how up and down it's been all year.
Yeah. Julian, we build a lineup at the end of the show. If you're new here, we certainly appreciate you popping in. We'll get a lineup at the end of the show. We'll pop in some stacks and everything as well. We'll talk about how to go about building it. I saw your question earlier as well about Kyle Harrison. We're fine with him. Some strikeout upside, but obviously a little bit risky because Milwaukee does hit lefties relatively well overall on the year. Shortstop, if you're spending up, you mentioned you're not afraid of going against Buehler, so you got Gunnar here. Tovar, Lindor versus a lefty, Seager at 53, Fitzgerald at 5K. We lament a lot. Seager being $5,300 should be more expensive. Great value, but again, I don't think you go wrong with any of the four top guys.
No. Obviously, Tovar is going to warrant the most attention after the game he had yesterday. Rightfully so.
Was he good? 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 3 hits.
Almost was 3 homers after his lone out traveled to the wall. Tovar is going to be popular. I mean, you could play any of them. I don't have a problem getting to anyone. Interesting Marlins lineup that just came out. The top 3 is fine. Norby, Berger, Bride. Derek Hill hitting 4th. David Hensley 5th. Otto Lopez 6th. They are going back to Mr. Marlin's son, Griffin Conine 7th. Kristen Pash 8th. And Nick Fortes 9th. That is a bad lineup. No Jesus Sanchez, obviously, in that lineup. Less potent. Kyle Stowers has been a thorn in the Rockies' sides for the last 2 days. He's not in the lineup.
Yeah. Again, Freeland's 55.
Bad lineup. Derek Hill hitting 4th.
All right, so the top group's there.
Any
value tier? Any shortstop in the value tier? Anybody for you?
Geraldo's fine. Edmonds fine. Rojas is fine. Right? I don't think anyone really stands out.
You've been liking Arcia versus righties. You got that.
Arcia against righties is fine. I think this is a position cost thing. I'm spending up at shortstop.
I agree. Outfield then. Jared Duran was cover of the playbook today. 6K. If you want to go Otani Betts, certainly can. Are you spending $5,900 on Doyle?
I wouldn't be against it.
Okay.
If you're playing Rockies, why wouldn't you?
I agree. Well, he's $5,900, so obviously the price is comparative to other players around him.
If you're playing Rockies and you're not playing Brent Doyle, and then you play like Ozuna, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So I would say if you're playing Rockies, the top 4 is expensive, or just the stack in general. But yeah, I would play Brent Doyle at 59.
All right. Where are you going next?
You could play any of these guys. Obviously, they're all super elite talent players. I'm not shying away from Charlie Blackmon. He's fine. 4,900. Play either Arizona guy, Springer, Jones, Jake Cave, Yoshida, 4,300.
Yeah,
Starling,
big 4K tier of guys we liked.
yeah, Starling Marte, Weiler Abreu, Michael Harris. The list goes on.
Value then tier?
Well, would you play Derek Hill?
Yeah.
Hitting fourth?
Getting clean up, sure.
$4,100 hitting fourth. Like that's
Yeah, I have no issues at all going with that spot. I also liked, let's see, is he in the lineup? Loberfito's 3K. Is Hilliard in the lineup today or no?
Hilliard's not in the not
okay.
playing.
Then that's fine then. Let's see. Other values. Get Sedmul's 37. Newpar, Edmonds
Hensley's hitting fifth, 3,500. If you want value in the Miami lineup, he's hitting fifth. So
sure.
He'll play. Will he be pinch hit for? Quite possibly with Jesus Sanchez. That's your. That I'd assume that would be the obvious like.
Yeah, Ramon Laureano hitting fifth today.
They do. He is hit in a lot of different spots. He hit second last week at some point.
Coming off 3 hits.
We said it, maybe back on the
he may be. He might be.
Michael Jordan's secret stuff,
Yeah, secret stuff. All right. Let's build on. Are we gonna go the double spend here or are we gonna go with lighter?
We had the question with what most appealing stack? Who's your most appealing stack? Because that will answer the question. You can say Boston if you want. You can be a homer here.
I don't. Well, the thing is, no, I don't really. I like Duran. In
I know no Devers. No Devers is like
right. I like one-off plays there. Most appealing stack. I kind of like the Blue Jays, honestly, in the opposite side of that game. They're all cheap.
Yeah, they are. I would say that. So then let's.
Hey, if you did Wagner at second, Loperfido in the outfield, and Barger at third. If we did lighter, and I don't disagree with you, it's been better lately. Do we go like Mets then?
Well,
Lindor.
This puts us in. The opportunity to obviously play Coors is right there, so we can play Coors. We can play Mets to be contrarian. I feel somewhat similar to how I felt about the Rockies yesterday, as I do today, with all the home runs that Max Meyer's given up. Obviously, he's a talented kid, but he has given up a lot. These are 2 terrible bullpens as well. I think Coors is appealing. So it just depends on where you want to go. Like, there's really cheap parts of Miami now with Conine in the lineup, with Hensley.
You got 47.50 with 2 outfield spots here.
If we did Hensley 3,500 and got exposure to Miami, you can get literally Duran or complete the stack.
Might as well just complete the stack. Might as well just complete the stack.
Literally just the only thing you're missing there is Ryan McMahon, and that's not terribly sad about it. So
sure. So Sale, Leiter, Romo, Toglia, Wagner, Barger, Tovar, Loperfido, Hensley, and Doyle. Hensley's your comeback in that Colorado stack. Game stack. We got 4 Rockies. We got 3 value Blue Jays going up against Brian Bayo. Spending all we have Chris Sale and Jack Leiter. If you're not in on Leiter, we mentioned not really being too afraid of Kyle Freeland. You can get Brad Blackmon in your line if you want to do. You can pick another one-off of Merrill or something like that if you want to go down there. But I think there's obviously legit strikeout upside. And as you mentioned, he's been way better at the minor league level lately. So That's where we're at for all of you guys here today. Adam, certainly appreciate it. Julian, thank you for the subscription here. You guys want to go ahead, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We go live here every day at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So hit that subscribe button so you never miss a live show. We do a preview show as well. If you guys are new to the channel, that comes out generally around 9, 10 o'clock at night, the night before. Gets you guys ready for the next day's slate. No live show tomorrow, though, because it's all day baseball. There's only a couple of night games. So we'll be back live at 5 p.m. on Friday. We will have the preview show for the early slate tomorrow, so you can check that out as well. If you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, I say it all the time, now is the best time to subscribe. That's not even the right button. This is fantasyalarm.com/win, promo code Let's Go. Gets your first month for less than $20. That's access to all of our premium content and our premium Discord. It also includes your fantasy football draft guide and cheat sheet. Both of those are live on site. The cheat sheet is downloadable PDF, so you can take that into your drafts with you. Tiered rankings, top 200, individual player rankings, ADP rankings, auction values, all included. That's a $25 value. The cheat sheet, the draft guide's $28. You can get both for $19.97 if you sign up with promo code Let's Go. So go sign up, become a member of the Fantasy Alarm family. That first month will take you basically now to the end of the first month of the NFL season, which means you get access to all of our NFL DFS content as well. So again, check us out here. Become a member of the Fantasy Alarm family today. Grande and I will be back live on Friday.